So you think you want to be an entrepreneur? Well, today I want to talk about the 12 reasons why entrepreneurship just might not be for you. If you're new here, I'm Jen, single mom, artist, and entrepreneur, and this channel is all about helping other people build a life that they love and do it all on their own. Now, I have been an entrepreneur for most of my adult life. I started my first business straight out of college when I was 23 years old, and that business did in fact fail. That's life, right? Sometimes these things happen. I learned an immense amount from that business, and it's definitely had a giant impact on my life moving forward. I did also learn, though, at that time that being an entrepreneur is something I really love, and the risks and challenges that go along with it are something that kind of motivates me personally, but that's not true for everybody. So let's talk about the 12 reasons why being an entrepreneur might not be for you. Number one, the lifestyle that comes with being an entrepreneur can be extremely demanding. The hours can be long and unpredictable. So if you're somebody who wants to clock in at 9 a.m. and clock out at 5 p.m., being an entrepreneur is probably not for you. Now, is it possible to get to a point in which, yes, that can absolutely be your lifestyle? Sure. But that's not how it starts. Being an entrepreneur is extremely demanding and extremely time consuming, especially at the outset. It takes time to build a business to the point where you can set really firm boundaries around your time. It can make it really difficult to prioritize work-life balance. And I think that's totally possible even from the beginning. However, if you are not a flexible person who needs really rigid time schedules, then this might not be for you. It might not. Rigidity and entrepreneurship just don't really go together. Number two, entrepreneurship requires a lot of self-motivation and self-discipline because there's usually no one else to hold you accountable. So there's no one else to say, hey, did you get this project done? Hey, did you finish that thing that needed to happen today? There's nobody else asking you those questions. The only person that's asking you that is you. So if self-discipline and self-motivation are something that you really struggle with, then maybe you shouldn't be an entrepreneur. Maybe working for someone else is the best bet for you. Not everyone is cut out to push themselves even when they don't feel like it. And to be fair, I have days where I'm not motivated either. And sometimes I can push myself through that, and other times I can't. Other days I don't get things accomplished. And I find that incredibly frustrating with myself, frankly. Staying disciplined is a piece that I struggle with and that I have to work on constantly. So there's plenty of room for learning and growth as an entrepreneur. Number three, starting a new business usually means a very steep learning curve. There are always new skills that you need to acquire. There are always new concepts that you need to figure out how to master, and you need to do all of that as quickly as possible. A lot of people find that really overwhelming. So if you're not someone who really enjoys diving into something and figuring it out and doing it quickly, then maybe this isn't for you. I personally love learning new things, and I enjoy the challenge of figuring it out quickly and on the fly. Number four, being an entrepreneur can be really competitive. Some markets are really saturated, and it can be really hard to figure out how you're going to stand out in a crowd. That can mean that some days are really hard when you see your competition doing something really, really well, and that you're really struggling with. When you see your competition raking in the dollars and you can't figure out why you're not making any, that can be really, really difficult. It can be really discouraging and something that's really hard to push through. If you don't have a really strong competitive vibe, if you're not one of those people who really thrives on having to push harder, that can be really hard. Number five, and this one is a big one, is that starting a new business can often mean a big financial investment. That is difficult because not everybody has a lot of money to invest in their business, which may mean that you have to do some work to find some grant money or some loan money. I personally won't invest money that I can't afford to lose. But that's that's a personal decision. I personally won't take out a loan to start a business because if things aren't working out, you're still on the line for paying that loan back, whether you ever see a reward from that investment or not. So that's a personal preference. Obviously, if you're starting a large scale business, loans are a necessity. For me, the kinds of businesses that I start are small businesses that, while they do require financial investment, we're not talking $500,000 of financial investment. I just recently purchased that kiln that you can see off in the corner, and that's for my glass business. And it was a financial investment. It was, I don't know, $1,500, I believe, to buy my kiln. And that's a lot of money, but it's not a lot of money in the grand scheme of things, right? Could I afford to lose that money? Yes. Was it a pretty sound investment? Yeah, I've pretty much already made back what I invested in it, frankly, in just a couple of markets, because people really love those fused glass creations that I'm making, and I knew they were going to. So it was a sound investment at the time, and not one that I felt badly or worried about making. But if you come from a really disadvantaged background, if you don't have any funds at all to spare, this can put you at a really big disadvantage as an entrepreneur if you don't have the financial means to invest in your business. Number 6 is that being an entrepreneur can be really financially unstable. It can. Sales ebb and flow. They really do. Summertime is rough for most retail establishments. August for most retail establishments is a rough month. People are on vacation, they're spending their dollars in other ways. If you sell retail items right before Christmas, you can be really flush with cash, and then the month of January, you can have no cash at all coming in. So it can be really, really unstable, especially depending on the kind of business that you're running. That can be really, really hard if you're not A, really good at budgeting, or B, don't have any other sources of income. I personally have multiple sources of income, so that's less of an issue for me. But if you're an entrepreneur who doesn't have a steady source of income and you are literally putting all of your eggs in this basket, it can be really, really, really difficult. Number 7, most of us put a lot of pressure on ourselves to succeed with a business. That can be extremely overwhelming, and it can frankly just be too much for some people. Not all businesses will succeed. In fact, statistically, 3/4 will fail in the first year. If you can't be okay with failure, if you can't take failure as an opportunity to learn, and instead let it be a soul-crushing thing that you can't come back from, then maybe you shouldn't be an entrepreneur, because failure is going to happen. And even if your business overall it doesn't fail, you're going to have promotions that fail, you're going to have sales that fail, you're going to have things that you fail at, marketing options that fail. So many things are going to happen that are going to fail that you have to be okay with failure. You have to be okay with using it as a springboard for growth. And if you can't do that, you definitely should not be an entrepreneur. Number 8, being an entrepreneur requires a lot of creativity and a lot of innovation, and not everybody has that. You have to be able to reinvent ideas, to reinvent things, and you have to be able to, I hate the phrase, think outside of the box, but you have to be able to do that. I don't know why I hate that phrase, I just do. It bugs me. I think it's because it's been so corporatized. So I hate that phrase. But you do have to be able to think outside of the box. You have to be able to look at things from a different perspective than everybody else is looking at them. You have to be able to think about marketing in a different way than other people think about it. You just have to be able to consider new approaches and try new things and be different. And not everybody has that ability. So you know yourself better than anyone. Is that something you're good with? Are you a creative person? Can you be innovative? And I'm not talking about innovative in ways like you have to be able to invent a whole new something. You don't have to be that innovative, right? But you do have to be able to consider things in a way that other people aren't considering them. Number 9, and this one is actually the biggest one in my mind. Being an entrepreneur can be extremely lonely. It can feel really isolating, and it can be really hard to keep pushing if you don't have a strong support system. And let me be real with you. Your family and your closest friends, while they may love you and support you, they are not going to be out there championing your business. They just aren't. And it's not because they don't love you. It's not because they think you can't do this. It's not a priority for them. So they aren't going to do it. You have to find champions. You have to go out there and make champions. You have to make clients who love you and what you do, who want to share that with their friends and family and with the world. Because the people already in your life, chances are not going to be those people that do that. And I know that that hurts to hear, and everybody hears that and says, oh, well, that's not true about my friends and family. But I'm telling you that it is. It is. It is true for every entrepreneur I know. Their friends and family are not their biggest advocates. They just aren't. I don't know why that is. There's I'm sure some sort of psychology behind that, but I'm not qualified to talk about why that happens. But it does. I've seen it over and over again. So, if you're a person who needs somebody constantly telling you you're amazing and constantly pushing you to keep going, this is not going to be a good fit for you. You have to have some of that yourself, and you have to be willing to go out there and find those people who are going to be your champions and your cheerleaders, because they're not going to fall into your lap, and they're not going to be in the people that already exist in your life. Number 10, starting a new business requires a lot of hard work and a lot of sacrifice, and just not everybody is cut out to do that. Now, I will say, I think that moms are generally much more inclined to be able to handle that level of sacrifice, because we do it every day for our kids. You're going to have to give up some sleep. You are going to have to give up some nights out with friends. You are going to have to give up things that you don't necessarily want to give up, because sometimes your business is going to have to take the front seat. If you have friends that aren't understanding of that, they're not going to be your friends very long. If you have family that doesn't understand that, they're not going to support you. And if you're not willing to make sacrifices, that's okay, but you shouldn't be an entrepreneur. Number 11 is the uncertainty that comes with being an entrepreneur can be extremely stressful and extremely overwhelming. You have to be prepared to question yourself pretty much 24/7. If we're going to be truthful, if we're going to be totally honest here, let's be totally honest. You need to be prepared to spend 90% of your day wondering if you're doing the right thing. In some ways, it's very much like parenting. We're just doing the best that we can day in and day out and praying to God we don't screw up those kids, right? Building a business is exactly like that. You're doing the best that you can day in and day out, and just praying that you don't mess it up too badly, and that somehow, some way, you get where you want to be. Now, I know that there are business gurus out there that are going to tell you, no, it doesn't have to be that way. There's a scientific process. Follow my program, blah, blah, blah. And maybe their program does work. I'm not going to be the one to tell you that a program works. I've tried a lot of programs. Some of them help, some of them don't, but none of them have skyrocketed me to a place of financial freedom and amazingness. That uncertainty will drive you crazy if you can't handle it. So you just have to be prepared to be stressed out, at least moderately. Like, you shouldn't be pulling all of your hair out every single day, but you are going to question yourself every single day, and that's okay. But if that's something that would drive you absolutely insane, then you maybe shouldn't do this. Number 12, being an entrepreneur, owning a business requires you to make a lot of decisions. And some people suck at making decisions, right? We all know that person that can't make a decision, that changes their mind every 10 minutes. If you're that person, for the love of God, don't try to start a business. You're not going to be good at it. Go work for someone else. Let somebody else make the decisions, and you just implement, okay? You are going to make tons of decisions every single day. Some of them really big, some of them minute and small. But if you can't make the big ones, you can't make the little ones. And the little ones consume probably 70% of my day in general. So many decisions. So if you're not a good decision maker, if you can't make a decision and stick with it long term, or at least for a few weeks, for the love of God, don't do this. Don't start a business. Don't become an entrepreneur. This is not the thing for you. So, to recap, there are a lot of downsides to being an entrepreneur and starting a business. There are a lot of them. There are a lot of difficulties in starting a business. There are also a lot of amazing rewards. If none of those 12 things are things that you think you'll struggle with, then awesome, good for you. Let's get going. Let's do this thing. But if even half of them are things that you're like, oh crap, I don't know. Oh, sweetheart, maybe this isn't the thing for you. I'm not saying don't try. I'm just saying think really hard about it. I hope that you found this helpful today. I really do. I hope that some of this resonated with you. And I will see you next time.